construction workers as well. They do a lot of access improvements. But that needs to be part of the picture. So let me just mention a couple of other things. I know that so service and support animals are a huge hot topic in San Francisco right now. Do people know the difference between a service animal and a support animal? Some yes, some no. So do you want to?
It's my understanding that a service animal is for those who have physical disabilities, so would be a seeing eye dog, or as a support animal is those who have what we call invisible disabilities. And so someone with major anxiety or depression uses the animal as an emotional support to get them through their day-to-day activities.
Great. So support animals are primarily for people with psychiatric disabilities who have anxiety or depression. There are service animals who've been taught to work with people with psychiatric disabilities as well, which is an important distinction. So, for example, someone who's got an anxiety disorder or who has difficulty controlling their temper, if the animal has been trained to start licking them or to nudge them, if they see the anxiety, they can tell that the anxiety is getting out of control or the temper is beginning to flow up. And so that's considered a service animal. This is another area in which portions of the disability community are at odds because guide dogs for the blind are trained for months and months at an average cost of about $5,000 per dog, and they're highly trained to behave very well in public. Support animals may get no training whatsoever. Under the new 2010 ADA standards, the federal government has made very clear that they consider service dogs and miniature ponies to be the only animals that are protected under the ADA. And so we're trying to explore how we can get better clarity and protection for broader ranges. Yeah, I call it the dog and pony show. It's just great disaster preparedness for people with disabilities. After Katrina, people here were very clear they didn't want to be the last to know and the last evacuated. We now are leading the country on disaster preparedness. Collaborating with the environmental movement and all the local efforts around improving the environment, from everything from how you build bike lanes that still allow paratransit access, that don't interfere with the ability of people with disabilities to get around, and how you provide more permeable greening on the public right of way without interfering with accessible access, how you provide parking and accessibility for electric vehicles or city car share programs while still providing access for people with disabilities. All of those are cutting-edge issues that we are dealing with. And then finally, what is an old and frustratingly continuing issue is how to make sure that all meetings are genuinely advertised and open to everyone with a disability. More and more things are put in PDFs that aren't always screen reader accessible. It's hard to get captioning or sign language interpretation. Making sure that the way a meeting is set up is genuinely inclusive. Those are just a few of some of the things that we're.
So one of the things that you mentioned, and I'd like you to speak to it if you could, was, and you mentioned it as well, the California budget crisis, and how is that affecting your work at Disability Rights California?
Right now, it's probably 90% of my work is finding creative solutions to get around the budget crisis. We encounter a lot of cuts in social services and home support services have taken a across-the-board cut, those are really hard to fight because they're not. You can't argue that there's discrimination there because it's how it affects everybody in the program. Another program is what's called the adult day healthcare centers, which are all across the state. Basically, the state wants to terminate that entire program with litigation on that as well. So, it's a hard time, and we've had to be creative. The unit that I work in is called the Abuse and Neglect Unit, and I said before, it focuses on abuse against people with disabilities, and it's been tremendously difficult for us to deal with the budget crisis because the people who are responding to those incidents of abuse have been cut. One particular setting that we work in skilled nursing facilities. The population is only going to increase in skilled nursing facilities, unfortunately. But at the same time, the resources that exist to protect folks from abuse or neglect or reckless endangerment, those are being cut. The Department of Public Health, which oversees nursing facilities, taking that staff cut. They don't do as many inspections anymore. The long-term care ombudsman, which is a group of advocates and volunteers who nursing facilities will call in case there's a case of abuse and neglect. They've taken a 70% hit, and basically going from a staff of 10 to just 1 or 2. And we've had to, we can't. These are not issues we can litigate. As lawyers, we always think litigation is the solution, but that's the avenue that we least prefer as in our organization, and we really try to come up with creative ways to fix these issues and get around them.
So, I mean, just talking about staffing issues, I'm sure something that's on the forefront of all of our students' minds are employment. And that's, this is a career panel. So what I wanted to just ask each of you is what kinds of recommendations do you have for students who are interested in working in your particular field? Or what kind of employment opportunities are there for students in your particular field? So kind of what I'm hearing from a lot of you is you started out in a place that you might not necessarily have thought would lead you to where you are. And it's wonderful to embrace those opportunities. And also, I think for our students in particular, I know that we don't have a disability law class, but it sounds like you would recommend students take other areas, like Dolly might say, like administrative.
Come on over to Hastings and take my disability law.
Take a disability class
Next semester.
Yeah. And education law.
Yeah,
Admin.
Yeah, I agree with
Admin is just good
I
in
agree with
general.
that.
I mean, no matter what you want to do, there are a lot of government jobs out there. I don't know if you know, I think it's still usajobs.net.
That's right. .gov. usajobs.gov.
That's how I got my job. The other thing I'd like to say is that right now with the economy the way it is, when I got out here, the economy was booming, and there were jobs everywhere, and the law firms, the big prestigious law firms, paid a fortune. They paid me a fortune to sit around and do nothing on an hourly basis, and then I got overtime and free food. It was awesome. It's not like that anymore. They're cutting the fat big time. And so I know as someone who's a solo, who is completely solo and would definitely at some point like to bring somebody on, I don't really care so much that you made the law review. What I care about is that you have some experience and you know what it is you're doing and that I'm not tripping over you. And I think getting experience wherever you can get it in this economy is really, really important. And if that means going to work for a big firm that actually fights the ADA, do it. Do it. I know maybe some people might shake their heads, but I say do it. I say that if you know how the bastards are actually defending these companies or whomever is in violation of the ADA, you're going to be eventually an asset to one of the organizations on the side of the angels, which is like I like to refer to myself. You're going to be an asset, and I cannot tell you how many clients have picked me over other more established attorneys because I used to work for the Social Security Administration. They're like, I talk to other attorneys, but I want you because you work for the Social Security Administration. So right now in this economy, get it where the getting's good, wherever it may be. Get the experience, and be of use so that eventually when the economy turns around and you get that experience, you will be able to get that job that maybe pays a little less or is more elusive, because there's a lot of competition for these jobs. There's especially in San Francisco. So I feel like maybe we need to address the reality a little more of,
And I think that's a great.
I think these are all amazing places to work, but I bet they also get 1,000,005 applications. So I'm just being very honest,
I
and
think, Jan, did you want to?
Yeah, I just want to chime in a little bit about what Dolly said. You know, don't just look at public interest. Law firms, they have great pro bono programs. You can do the research there. Two of the major class actions that we are leading right now wouldn't have been possible without the help of Morrison and Forrester and Howry. Unfortunately, they're not with us anymore.
you are with us anymore.
But you know, we work with their attorneys. They're incredibly passionate about the issues that they're not even mandated to deal with. So there's an option. And just finally, do clinics. I think one thing that we all have in common is that you need to know how to interact with people, with your clients. Some of them may be a little difficult, and,
Yes.
and they're not your usual clients of, I have a corporation, I need you to help me incorporate, or, they are great people, but they sometimes do need a little different way of handling them in order to get to the issues, and those clinics are really important, and that's one of the things that I look at when when we take an interns.
Handling clients is a very, very big issue, and I don't think it's taught enough in law school.
Let me add one other thing for those of you who are thinking of staying locally in San Francisco. San Francisco is such a democratic city that we have citizen advisory bodies for almost every part of city government. And so if you have extra time, every single one of those advisory bodies, with the exception of our Mayor's Disability Council, needs a disability perspective. So if you can bring a disability perspective to the Municipal Transportation Commission, to the Women's Commission, to the Immigrants' Rights Commission, I mean, there are probably 120 different advisory bodies in San Francisco. And some of them come with benefits or pay, most of them don't. But if you're finding that you have some downtime between taking the bar and your next job, feel free to contact me about areas that you are interested in. It's a very good way of understanding administrative law in practice and understanding how at least local government and politics work.
Thank you. So I think we're going to have to leave it at that because I think we're at time.
Thank you.
But I'd like to thank each of you just for this really wonderful panel, and thank you guys all for coming. And maybe you guys can stick around for another 5 minutes or so if students want to come up and ask questions because we didn't get to a formal Q&A. But thank you.
Thank you.